Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. It is one of the hottest stories in Canada. The Canadian Football League has introduced a suite of new rules and regulations that will take effect in 2026 and 2027 that Commissioner Stuart Johnston calls significant. How the new rules will impact the game remains to be seen, of course, but the announcement has created a conversation the likes of which the CFL hasn't enjoyed in years. Our guest today is Scott Radley, a columnist with the Hamilton Spectator and the host of the Placeline Hamilton podcast. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
My gosh, Monday was quite the day in Canadian Football League history as Stuart Johnston went up before the nation and announced a series of alterations that I'll recap very quickly. So 2026, the teams are going to be now separated on the sideline. Currently in the CFL, we have both teams on the same sideline. One team is going to go to the other sideline, which may have a significant impact in terms of the fluidity of the game. The play clock is going to go from 20 seconds to now an automatic 35-second play clock. So the CFL referee will not have to reset the ball and the time has to stop. It's going to continue to go, which is very interesting. And the Rouge is finally getting tweaked. So if a field goal attempt, a kickoff, a punt goes out of the end zone, a failed field goal attempt out of the end zone without being touched, it's not a Rouge, it's not a single point. But if a missed field goal is short and the returner takes a knee or is tackled in the end zone, or a kickoff or punt also received in the end zone and the individual takes a knee or gets tackled, you will still get a Rouge. In 2027, the more significant changes come. We have the end zones go from 20 yards in most cases, because there are a couple that are not completely 20 yards from front to back to end and to side. From 20 yards to 15 yards, the goalposts go from the goal line to the back of the end zone, and the CFL field is going to shrink from 110 yards to 100 yards. We're taking all this information in. Of course, beforehand, we didn't know quite how severe these changes were going to be. Or were they moving to 4 downs? Was it going to be an American-sized field? Like, everyone was thinking, what is going to happen? Now that, we've had a few days to digest all these changes that are coming, what came to mind on Monday? What comes to mind now?
So there's one that I love. There's a few that are benign, and there's a few that I'm not really all that excited about.
Let's start with the one you love.
The Rouge.
Okay.
Maybe my Canadian citizenship is going to be revoked for this, but I have always hated the Rouge because I am firmly in the camp that it does reward failure. And I know what the defenders and traditionalists say that, well, no, it's a reward for field position. You've gotten close enough that you miss, you still get a point.
Yeah.
Two problems with that. First of all, I don't even know what year the Rouge came into play. But I can tell you, let's say it was 1950 or 40 or 30. Kickers today are slightly different from the guys back then.
They're a smidge better.
They can hit from 60, 65 yards now. Anywhere on the field, basically, is rewarding field position by that. But the other part is, it never made sense to me that if you're saying missing a field goal, but the ball goes into the end zone, well, it was field position. You were close enough, so you get a reward. Why do we not then give a point if a quarterback throws a pass to a receiver in the end zone who doesn't catch it, but he gets his hand on it, and it's close, and you had enough field position that he could do that? Well, shouldn't that be a point? It doesn't make any sense to me. So thrilled. The traditionalists, I think, should be happy that the Rouge is still in play. It's still in there. It's a quirk of the game, and it's still alive, but way better the way they've done it. The sidelines, maybe the players will say it made a huge difference in the game. I don't think. I was kind of surprised the owners were excited about this, if only because most fields, one sideline is all advertising, which will be lost now. You would think revenue from that will be lost. Moving the goalposts, TBD. When they move them to the back of the end zone, they say that all these plays that quarterbacks are making, they have to adjust and they can't use the middle of the field. Like, I'm not under the headset. I don't know how often plays are not called or adjusted because of that. You see the odd one hit the post. That's how many times that happened? 3, 4.
But you're debating how much does the playbook shrink in that part of the field.
And we'll see. I mean, Stuart Johnston, I think it was under that category that he said we'll see 60 more touchdowns a year. That's pretty ambitious. We'll see. So those, whatever. And I'll defer to you on the play clock. You're the one calling the games with the rhythm. I'll defer whether that's going to be a big deal or not.
Yeah, I can see it being a positive in terms of quickening the game because, yes, we have a 20-second play clock, and that is very much quicker than the National Football League, and we'll talk about the supposed Americanization of these rules. But, play ends, and now the play clock is starting. There's no need to stop the clock and have the official reset, and then the play clock starts. When the plays end, a guy is tackled, the whistle blows, the play clock starts, right? So teams are, I think, going to have to quicken the pace a little bit. I think from a viewership standpoint, whether you're watching on TV, listening on the radio, or in stadium especially, I think you're going to notice that the game is a little faster. I don't think it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes faster, but I think you'll notice the gameplay to be a little more fluid. So the one that you hate the most?
Well, this is the one I dislike it, but I also don't understand it. Okay. So throughout the entire press conference, if I was hearing what I think I was hearing, the emphasis here is we have to create more scoring. We have to make the game more exciting and create more scoring. That's why the goalposts are moving. That's why. So shrinking the field from 110 to 100 yards and then shrinking the end zones. I did my math 3 times because math is not my strong suit, and I did it with a calculator.
Thanks for doing it for me.
But someone can go and check this. A 110-yard field with 20-yard end zones, 2 of those, is 150 yards long.
Correct.
Times 65 yards. A 100-yard field with 15 is 130 yards, right? You do the math on that one, you're losing 1,300 square yards of field space.
Right.
How is compressing the field opening things up for more offense? That is a contradiction to me. It seems like if you want to create more offense, you make the field bigger. Now, they're not going to make it bigger because stadiums are locked in, but that to me, the idea that, if we make everything tighter, it'll create more, doesn't register.
Yeah, so the thought that I had, and to me, of all the changes that they made, this is the one that's a bit of a gut punch because while the field is still as wide as it has been for decades, it is being shrunk. You're losing 10 yards of real estate. And so,
plus 5 in each end.
Plus in the end zone, too. So, the thought process that I had originally was, okay, this is moving offenses 10 yards closer to the end zone, right? You don't have that 10 yards to go. But you still have to get into the end zone, and this is what I'm thinking. So, with the wider field, with the longer field, how many more first downs are you going to have to get? At least one on a field that's 10 yards shorter. That's not a huge difference. And I think what the CFL has kind of, clearly is trying to do is, from a viewership standpoint, again, if you're in stadium watching on TV, that part to me looks a lot more American than anything else because it is now. You don't have that 55 or that the letter C signifying the difference that you have between our game and their game being the National Football League.
The cynic in me, and believe me, the cynic can come right to the top, says, I don't see that reducing the field is going to, that those 10 yards, if you really want to say, we need more offense, you need to make it 10 yards less, start every drive after a touchdown at the 55 then.
Right.
That's at midfield and say, you don't have to drive all that halfway. If we really want offense.
This will increase offense,
to me, the cynic says NFL ratings are enormous. NFL attendance is enormous. If we can make on TV our game look to the passing viewer clicking by like, oh, it looks a little like the NFL, maybe they'll stick around and watch that. Maybe the thought is, well, this looks a little more NFL-y. And look, maybe that's not the case, but I have heard one person after another since Monday say they believe this is greasing the skids. This is not the last of the changes that will come. Something else, by the way, I mentioned with the sidelines and the revenues that were lost. 5 of the CFL's 9 stadiums within the past decade or so are either new or have been renovated.
Refurbished,
And if you look now at some of the seating, there are now people who are outside the field of play. I am, again, surprised that owners were excited about this because it either means you're going to have to reduce the price of those tickets, but they're not then just going to waive that money. That means tickets are going to go up in the other areas.
Yes, this is my theory. Because now you're further away from either the end zone or the field of play. Let's just take Hamilton Stadium for an example, because I think most people can relate to that. Is if you're in the Stipley area, which is the opposite side of the scoreboard, or if you're in the Stelco area, which is just underneath the scoreboard, you are now at least 5 yards further away. Not even 5 yards, 15 yards, because they've carved out 10, 5 yards shorter in the end zone. So you're a bit of a ways from the end zone. Now you have those 4 kind of corner pieces of the grandstand on each side, again, further away from the field. Do those ticket prices get reduced? Because, again, you're further from the field. And do the ticket prices, you mentioned, everywhere else in the field go up to compensate? This is the theory that I have, that it's going to be employed from stadium coast to coast.
Well, another one, and this is totally minor, I don't want to get hung up on this one, but one of the comments that the commissioner made was those goalposts can be an eyesore. They can block your view. Well, now if you're back on the Stipley patio, that goalpost is right in front of your nose now.
Yes.
So it's blocking your view. So it's just different views being blocked by it. But to me, the point of this whole thing is, if the idea is truly to improve the game, overall, I don't anticipate that suddenly this is going to, I mean, I'm very skeptical about this 60 more touchdowns a game.
Yeah.
I don't believe that suddenly everyone is going to go, wow, we're back to 1980s Matt Dunnigan, Doug Flutie, Damon Allen football, where you were scoring points on every drive. I don't believe that's going to happen. And so if it does, all right, you've done something here and made things better to what you're shooting for. If it doesn't, what does come next? But beyond that, it's the idea that the answer to a better game, I don't believe, is 10 yards less. It's better players. Yeah. And I'm not taking a shot, especially quarterbacks. I'm not taking a shot at the guys on the field. They're great athletes. But last week we saw a Winnipeg game that was absurd, where Chris Streveler completed 3 passes in a CFL game.
Yes.
3 passes.
And he only attempted 8.
He only attempted 8. I mean, look, if you want to put a rule in play to improve the game, say any quarterback that doesn't complete at least 10 passes in a game is banned from ever playing another game in the CFL.
Yes.
Chris Streveler is now on Streveler Island, banished from another snap in the CFL. He can come back as a running back, but he can never play quarterback again. To me, that's the thing. This to me, the CFL's challenge, and we're getting in deep here, but the CFL's challenge is that the NFL over the last 20, 25 years has taken, stylistically, is a lot closer to where the CFL was in the 80s.
Yeah, especially offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. You have quarterbacks that are way more mobile and way more. It used to be the NFL. What was that old line about? The cloud of dust, 2 yards. 2 runs. Yeah.
2 yards in a cloud of dust. Yeah.
So you now have every team pretty much has except for Cleveland, has a mobile quarterback, a guy who can run, a guy who's an athlete. Some of those guys would have been in the CFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've said this before, and it may be insane because maybe it wouldn't be the case, but I've looked and thought, 20 years ago in the NFL, would Patrick Mahomes have been an NFL quarterback as a smaller, mobile guy who doesn't have a really strong arm?
Right.
Or would he have been playing up here in Canada?
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, something we can think about.
So now if you've got all those CFL-style quarterbacks playing in the NFL with backups, with third stringers.
Who are all kind of alike.
And other guys who are playing in the other leagues down there. Yeah. The guys who are up here, and again, I'm not trying to take a stab at the guys who are up here, but there is a drop-off from where there was once upon a time in this league.
Agreed. Here's, I hate that. I don't hate, because it's only human nature to compare yourself to the next closest thing. The CFL and the NFL are the closest things we have to professional football. Let's throw the XFL and the USFL and the UFL and all the other variations of FLs that have been in the U.S., because these are the 2 longest standing leagues. The major difference, and I'm not talking about talent on the field or coaching or all that kind of stuff, is money. Right? Like the NFL is a gazillion-dollar industry. That one player in the NFL makes nearly, or if not as much as every player in the Canadian Football League.
Josh Allen, I believe, makes more than every player combined in the CFL.
So, I mean, they're, in a nutshell, is the economical difference between the 2 leagues. You have multiple broadcasters in the States, whether it's ESPN, NBC, CBS, you go down the list.
YouTube, Prime.
Exactly. Who are spending billions of dollars per year. So it's really night and day. So to compare us to them is, at this stage of their existence, foolish. Back in the day, and Bo Levi mentioned this at practice the other day, that it wasn't that long ago, 30, 40 years ago, where NFLers or future NFL stars came to the Canadian Football League, whether it was Rocket Ishmael for different kind of reasons. Angelo Mosca was one of those guys. And a lot of the players back in that era were like, no, we're going to play in the CFL because they got paid more money.
Yep.
That's never going to happen again because the NFL is so far ahead. But do you think this is, and you kind of referenced it a little bit, are we one step closer to the Americanization of the CFL? Because that's the hottest topic. The CFL hardcore fans and even those fair weather fans are like, well, we're just one step closer with these changes. More changes are going to come. Stuart Johnston, the commissioner, was asked on Monday, would you ever consider going to 4 downs?
Twice.
And he didn't really say no, or didn't say no.
No, he clearly did not answer the question.
So that's clearly not a hill that he's going to die on.
So when you are talking about it's not good to compare, and I agree with you because these are two totally different enterprises, is it a wise plan to make yourself look more like them?
Right, because you're never going to be that.
You're never going to be that. And look, every league that has competed with the NFL at the same time of the year that the NFL has played has gone kaput.
Yeah.
To me, I understand that apparently a number of the teams in the league are losing money. You can see that there are poor attendance at some games, not all, but at some of them. And, you want to make the business work. I get it. And I get that would make it, there's an urgency to make the CFL work. Again, to me, the things that make it a little more like the NFL, and if these are just the first steps, and we don't know that yet, we'll see. But if that's the case, to me, you're making yourself now more comparable to the NFL, and you're going to lose that.
Yeah.
With
every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Like
literally.
The diehard CFL fans will disagree with that, but the vast population, you will lose that fight if you try to make yourself more like the NFL. And I go back to my point: what you need are quarterbacks that can really go. And now, where do you find them? I don't know. Do you put something in place that says, since they drive the game, and back as long as I've been watching football, they have, and I mentioned a few of the names. You could probably list off 25 guys that, Anthony Calvillo and all these guys. Do you say every CFL team that quarterbacks don't count against the cap in the CFL? Now, some teams would hate that, but you can have 7 of them.
Right.
We're going to bring in as many as we can to try and find those diamonds in the rough that may have slipped through the cracks, but that we'll then have, and one of them will take off. I mean, look, there's quarterbacks in every league who you didn't expect were going to turn into what they are.
Right.
And all of a sudden, given the chance and all, it works. Yeah. And, when I mentioned Patrick Mahomes, honestly, did anybody think that Patrick Mahomes would be Patrick
otherwise he would have been drafted first overall.
Right? The Bills would not have traded down to get away. So, like, maybe that's an idea. Say you can have 7 quarterbacks on the roster that don't count against your salary cap, and you can practice with them. And I mean, I don't know, maybe these are crazy ideas, but somehow, to me, that's where the game gets fixed.
And here's,
not with these little tweaks off the side.
Yeah, and here's the problem with that is this league doesn't have the money to do that, or at least doesn't have the financial backing to do that from corporate sponsors. And that's another big difference that the NFL has over the CFL is, the NFL, again, has these multi-gazillion-dollar partnerships. For me, the CFL, for it to get to that next level, the level that I think the commissioner wants to get to in terms of eyeballs and money and revenue, they have to do a better job, not necessarily of just marketing the product, but marketing the athletes and, convincing, enticing, these corporate entities to hand over some big bucks. Easier said than done.
Very much easier, yeah.
The ratings have to be in place. Like, there has to be a significant buzz where corporations say, okay, now I want to be a part of this. And many of them are, but they just need more of them. And I think until we get there, it's not going to be where we as a nation, as the CFL wants it to be.
So what is it about the NFL? And this is a tough question. What is it about the NFL that makes it work so well? What has led the NFL to be where it is now?
I think there's a bunch of things. Number one, the talent on the field is unquestionably the best in the world. Number two, I think it's the variety of, not necessarily the teams, but it's a national game in terms of almost every state or region has the team that they're cheering for. So you have that fan buy-in.
Yeah.
Betting/fantasy.
Yes.
It's been one of the...
Okay, let's stop there for a second, because there's another one I think you'll get to in a second, but the CFL announces all these changes.
Mm-hmm.
What did they not announce? They still don't have an app.
Yes.
We are 2025, and you don't have an iPhone app that you can follow the league and that can set up fantasy, CFL, and all the... That, to me, when he came in, everything else should have been left until we solve how come we don't have the technology. How come there are times when the online stuff isn't right or is slow, or... if you're wanting to attract young viewers, that's where you start.
Yeah.
That is the first place you start.
Yeah. Get something on people's phones.
That's not there. Carry on though. That was a big one. But something, and I'll give you just a. So earlier this year, or late last year, I can't remember what it was. Earlier this year, here in Hamilton, there was a huge debate at City Hall about should we ban tailgating.
Oh, right. Yeah.
All right. I was just down at the Bills game against the Dolphins last Thursday. I would, if you had to survey everybody down there, I would bet you that 50% of the people would say I would show up for this party even if there was no game. If you just said we are going to have a giant parking lot party with Pinto Ron getting sprayed with ketchup and mustard and bands playing, I don't either, and all this stuff, and at 5 o'clock. It's over and we're all going home. But from noon till 5 or noon till 7, we're going to have this party. I bet you 50% of the people would still show up. And here and in other places in the CFL, we're making it difficult and kind of going, do we really want that? This is a part of what's made the NFL as well, is all the stuff around it. And that's something else that I mean, maybe down the road it becomes a thing, but where Stuart Johnson should be getting more politically active maybe in some of these cities, saying what can we do to actually boost tailgating? Toronto, I know, for example, the Argos a few years ago tried to have an official tailgate party. Doesn't work.
Let the fans do it themselves.
It's got to be, I hate this word with every fiber of being, but let it be organic. Just let it happen. And if there's no wild behavior and fans committing crimes and everything, but they're wild, let them be wild. And we sort of want to, a lot of places, tamp this stuff down rather than encouraging and saying look, you're a Dolphins fan.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. But, people around here who have been to Bills games and stuff, there is something on the way down, we stopped in at Wegmans to just get some snacks and stuff across the border.
Yes.
We did not
Thanks for the Pop-Tarts, by the way.
We did not see, it's true, the coconut caramel Girl Guide cookie flavored new Pop-Tarts.
I can't wait.
We did not see, that I didn't see anyway, a single person in Wegmans not wearing Bills gear. There is something fantastic about the community bonding that a team can bring. And part of that is winning, for sure. But part of it is the tailgate and the party and the community and everything else. We should be building that part of it up. Ticats don't do badly at this. Riders do wonderfully at it. The Bombers do well at it. But this idea that people all around town on that day for that event, for that team, are all in it together. There's something beautiful about that.
It is something to behold, for sure. The hills to die on. For me, 3 downs, 12 men, wider field. I would have included longer field, but I'm willing to give that a look. But those are the 3 for me. Do you have a holy trinity as well?
I have a holy one.
A holy one.
And because I just think 3 downs is so foundational to the Canadian game. If 3 downs is gone, the Canadian game is gone.
Right.
The other ones, I agree with you, but they don't come close to the idea that if you take away 3 downs, this game is, as we know it, is done, and then they're not going to 2 downs. So the only option then is 4, and then we've talked about it, you become much more closely compared to the NFL, and you're going to lose that fight.
There is a thought, though, that if it does eventually go to 4 downs, and I'm not a proponent of that, I wanted to see it at 3 forever, ever, amen, that if it does go to 4 downs, the teams are still based in Canada. We still have the ratio, theoretically, if it still existed. It's still the Canadian Football League, because it's in our country. Do you buy into that? I kind of do, because it's It's the Canadian Premier League, like the Pro Soccer League. So it's based in Canada. Not all the players are Canadian. They don't play by Canadian rules. And it's still, I would consider it the Canadian Premier League, right? But that's a league that started that way. The CFL started the way it has for, so many years.
Yeah, I have a really hard time finding any way to salvage the league if 3 downs are gone.
Right.
I just because it changes
I agree with that.
everything about it. It changes the style. So now, who are the players who play in the CFL generally? Guys who are incredibly athletic, but maybe physically their build is not the same. You don't have to have a 340-pound offensive lineman.
Yeah.
You might be 280 or 300, but you're a little faster and you're off the ball. The receivers, you love to have tall receivers, but you can have Speedy Banks or a Tim White or someone who's 5'10 or 5'9 play in this league. The running backs, the quarterbacks, all of those things, if you take out 3 downs, all you're doing now is looking then for the exact same guys who are in the NFL. It's going to make it, in my mind, even worse because now you've got these guys who are great athletes but don't have the physical gift to make it in the NFL perhaps, but they're just as good as athletes.
Yeah.
What you're going to do if you all of a sudden now go to 3 downs, you're going to get the second or third tier of the exact same guys. So I don't even think your athletes would probably be as good because you now have to find that the guys who match the NFL style, but they're all gone.
Yeah.
So it's like the minor league of minor leagues now. I wrote this at the end of my column this week that we have to hope that these changes actually do work.
Yeah.
Because if in fact this really is a first step or greasing the skids towards others, and they bring in I am sorry that to me is the end of the CFL.
We shall see. Scott, thanks for the time today. Great discussion as always. I will. Thank you very much again. And thank you for checking out the Newsmakers podcast. And a big thanks to the all-star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment, catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.